Do you ever wonder what separates the people who succeed from those who get stuck? For me, it came down to just 3 habits. Well, these habits weren't an accident per se. I didn't realize how important they were until much later, and I was able to look back. The first one's pretty simple. You don't have to learn a new skill. You don't have to really do anything different about how you're doing or being or showing up in your everyday. And it's this: share other people's talents and wins. I've always found it feeling a bit egotistical and self-centered to talk about myself, but I find it very easy to find and see the best in somebody else and then share that strategically with other people who would appreciate knowing the talents that others around me have, or their successes or their wins. So I make it a point when somebody else is doing something amazing to make sure that the right people know. Now, how do you determine who those right people are? If it is somebody else on my team that is doing a great job at something, I would make sure my manager knows. If it is somebody who is doing something that helps the sales organization, I would make sure that the sales leader was aware of that person's contribution. If it is somebody that is doing analysis that ultimately results in, say, a very specific decision about a product direction, to build it or not to build it, to enhance something, to roll out beta, like test group or GA general release, then I would make sure that the product leader knows that, or the product management leader. It doesn't have to be a C-suite person that knows about it, but it does need to be somewhere in the organization outside of your own small group and or your manager or people that person regularly interacts with. Because here's something that I found about sharing that. One, actually you look good. It's not an accident that people get pigeonholed in roles and other people kind of get picked for the next thing. And your ability to see what's great about other people will make you stand out as a leader and someone who is not pigeonholed to do like one specific thing long term. But if you're able to see where other people provide value, that in and of itself is a very valuable skill. You being able to share it in a meaningful way with the right people at the right time is an additional valuable skill. And when you stack those skills, it's not just as simple as share what other people are doing. It's the strategicness of doing that. And I have found by accident, just natural proclivity to do that has actually been something in my career that has made a huge impact on how I show up, what opportunities I'm exposed to or offered, as well as the difference and impact of how others are seen who are maybe quieter people. Because a lot of times some of the greatest ideas and the greatest things that happen in the company are done by very quiet people who don't kind of toot their own horn. This is a way for you to give a voice to those who are quieter and not the loudest voice in the room. And it's easy to do, especially if you have a mindset of looking for the best in others. I guess word of caution: somebody who's a slacker, comes in late, doesn't pull their weight, doesn't go out of the way, doesn't do anything extra, just like kind of does the bare minimum. I'm not saying give that person a lot of kudos, but that person who's like really contributing and really trying to help the organization go somewhere, help them shine. Help them not have to be the only person that's advocating for them. Number 2, only work on what moves the organization forward. BAU, business as usual, is well and fine, and that's part of every single person's job description in an organization. But if you can minimize the amount of business as usual, BAU work that you do, and you focus more on as many one-time events, one-time projects, one-time pushes towards something, you will maximize your exposure to people who create opportunities in the organization. And if you do a great job at those things, they will think of you when those opportunities pop up. And this is less about your tiny skills, and this is more about how you interact with others, how you get things done, how you support the bigger vision instead of being petty or taking sides. It's how you show up in every interaction on top of getting done the role that you're playing in that one-time project. So do one-time projects. Sometimes these one-time projects can be really tricky to see. And if you're not great at spotting them, ask around. Ask your manager, ask other people who seem to be working on these one-time projects, like, hey, how'd you find out about that? How'd you get involved in that? Do you know of any others that are coming up? You have to get involved. And this is what I hear all the time. But Erin, I don't have time. Then that means you have a discipline problem. And your discipline problem looks like this. Hey, can you help me out with this? Sure. Hey, can you help me out with this? Sure. You have to know what to say yes to and what to say no to, and be able to say no in a diplomatic way so that you have time to say yes for that one-time project. And sometimes saying yes to that one-time project means working more than a 40-hour week. Sometimes it means working more than a 50-hour week or a 60-hour week. So this is also something that you have to decide that you are up for and that you are willing to sacrifice other parts of your life, aka it's an exchange of time, for doing this thing that could lead to an opportunity in the future that you cannot see at the current moment. If you can find passion in the work that you do in these one-time projects, it won't feel like you're sacrificing things, or it won't feel like you're working a 50, 60, 70-hour week. I took on one-time projects and worked 70 hours a week a number of times over my career, and I don't regret it a single time. And it's not about the 70 hours. It's about, hey, I'm going to do this extra 20 hours, 25, 30 hours a week on something that I am super passionate about. So right now I'm super passionate about being involved in my kids' lives while they're in high school and taking them places and making sure that they have really cool experiences. And that takes a certain amount of time. So I'm saying no to things that would prevent me from doing those things. So when you think about work and you're working on this one-time project and it's taking a portion of your time, you have to sacrifice in other areas. So I remember when I was pregnant with my third, I was working on a project, and then I was also working on my MBA, and everybody was like, I don't know how you do all this. Very simple. I got off social media. I got off watching Netflix. I stopped watching TV. I didn't read like fiction novels. I took a break from all that for almost 3 years. It was a long commitment, but for me, it was really important. These other things were more important than those things. So I prioritized school, one-time project, and my family. And that meant I didn't have time for anything else. And that was okay for that season of my life. So get really clear on what season of your life you're in and what things are important to you. If getting picked for opportunities that you don't see today is important to you, if things like doubling your salary or being known for something or wanting to kind of have a really cool role in the organization, even if it's not defined today, is important to you, then you have to be willing to sacrifice some other things, and you have to do the one-time stuff. Doing BAU is not the way forward for big successes. And number 3, be willing to be fired for your values. There were a number of conversations that I have entered into over my career where I was willing to take a stand on something. And if that meant that I was going to get fired for my view or my belief, then so be it. And I know that this is a really hard one for a lot of you because you're thinking, I have a family to feed. I have to put food on the table. I am not willing to sacrifice who I am and what I stand for in order to do that. I have to hold the belief true, and you do too, that you're not so far outside of norms on a certain view or belief that the company would actually fire you for it. And if they did, you're not in the right company, and you have to believe enough in yourself. And I had to believe enough in myself that I knew that if I did get fired for my view, that I would be able to figure out how to get enough money to feed my family and keep a roof over their head. This isn't about doing foolish things at work, but I was willing to go to bat for people. So I remember one time we were in the middle of an acquisition conversation, and I was helping make sure that my team got transitioned in the acquisition. I was part of the group that was NDA'd in and was doing the whole process. And so when it got announced, of course, you're no longer one company and you're in another company. And one of my team members was going to get paid less. And that was because it was being offset by a bonus, so the total compensation was higher. But going into this new company, we didn't know if the bonus would actually be realized, right? We didn't have any context for that. So even though the total compensation was higher, the everyday base salary was lower. And so I went to the CFO at the time of this company that had acquired us, and I said, take it out of my salary, or fire me or don't bring me over, because we have to, as part of this, not just this person, but every single person on my team, you have to match their base salary. And if you can't do that, I can't come along. And a really funny thing happened. The CFO said, I get it. We haven't earned your trust yet. Don't worry about it. It doesn't need to come out of your salary. We absolutely will match it. And then you'll see that it's worth staying and being part of our company. But I had to be willing to go to bat, and I had to be willing to hear the CFO tell me, then I will take it out of your salary, or no, you won't be coming along. But I was willing to make that stand for every single person on my team. That's one example. There's lots of smaller examples. And that's a very heavy example. I just want to illustrate for you the importance of understanding what your values are and being able to stick to them, and having enough belief in yourself that you will figure out a way when you take a stand and things don't go your way. And what I've found over the course of time is when you take a stand and you have a credible reason for that view, and you're in a room where people are actually listening because you have built a reputation of not being of not asking for things or taking a stand on things which are ridiculous, then you shouldn't really have anything to actually worry about. But every company's different. I have been part of 3 or 4 acquisitions, and in all of those, they've gone very differently. I've been part of 6, 8 different companies in senior leadership positions, and they're all a little bit different. But if you get the right people around you and you build the right reputation and brand for yourself, then you can pretty comfortably stand behind your values without too much concern. But you also have to be willing to be fired over those. Those are my 3 tips. I've had doors open for me so this is 2025, and I'm not ready to announce it yet, but another door has just opened because I've been putting in some work behind the scenes for a couple of years with a really, really big organization, and I'll be doing some paid work for them that was offered to me. I didn't apply for it. I did do an application, but it was after everything had already been decided. So I will say that these 3 values have opened doors that I didn't know existed since 2008. Since 2008, I have not had to turn in my resume first. Every single thing that I have done since 2008 has been an opportunity where a door has opened, and in cases where I've had to have a resume, that has been an afterthought. It hasn't been the leading thing. These 3 things, I'm telling you, game changer. All right, that's it from me. I'm Erin, and I'm a former executive, and now I have my own business doing this, and I hope you enjoyed. Take care. I'll see you in the next video.